In this video, we will discuss about the definition of theoretical framework. According to Skaran and Bogi, a theoretical framework represents your beliefs on how certain phenomena are related to each other, and an explanation of why you believe that these phenomena or variables are associated with each other. Let's take an example. In a work field, you might see that someone who loves his or her job is more likely to have good performance and achieve targets better. On the other hand, a person who hates his or her job tends to perform poorly. According to this event, you might make a guess that how people feel about their job influence their performance. However, it is not a strong argument. Therefore, you need to critically review the literature in order to find others' perspective about the reason why there are differences in employee performance and whether they are caused by job satisfaction, or there are other variables that should be included or considered. This process not only results in identified relevant variables, it also helps you to explain the reason why you believe how the phenomena happen. This is what we call as theoretical framework. In a simpler way, we can say that a theoretical framework is none other than identifying the network of relationships among the variables considered important to the study. Now that you are able to identify the relationships among the variables and have supporting arguments from previous research, be as it may, you still need to prove it. It is where the data take place to give you evidence to your argument. Given this point, a theoretical framework offers the conceptual foundation to proceed with the research. To comprehend more about theoretical framework, let's take a look for an instance. Chang and Wild believe that someone who has an urge to buy product is caused by his or her perception regarding the value of the product. They also believe that the perceived value of a product is a combination of how the person perceives the quality of the product and the price of the product. The higher the quality is perceived, the higher the value of a product is perceived. Conversely, the higher the price is, the lower the value is perceived. Further, the perceived quality is influenced by product attribute information, such as product specification, function, and feature. As for perceived price, is determined by objective price, the actual price of the product, and by reference price. The product price compares to the price of other similar product. All of the connection here, which represented by arrows and plus and minus symbol attached to them, are developed through the process of critically reviewing previous research and integrate them with what researchers saw in the field. Here is another example of theoretical framework. In 1985, Davis developed a conceptual model called as TAM, Technology Acceptance Model. It is a ubiquitous theoretical framework. In this model, he believes that the actual system used is determined by user motivation variables, which can be categorized as affective response and cognitive response. Further, the design feature are identified as antecedent of user motivation variables. Now that you get the idea of what theoretical framework is, there is an interesting thing in positivist research that you might also need to know regarding the theoretical framework. Different researchers may have similar and yet different theoretical framework. For example, in 1975, Fishban and Azen developed a theoretical framework called as the theory of reasoned action. Using the similar and yet different way of thinking, Davis redeveloped his model of thumb in 1989, as you can see here in the illustration. The blue show the similarity and the yellow show the difference between the two theoretical frameworks. At this point, I expect that you've already known the definition of theoretical framework. Now, we will learn how to build one. Here is the process of building theoretical framework. First, you need to identify the concept or variables regarding the research question. To do so, you can firstly determine a concept that is highly related to the problem that you want to address. It could be a word or phrase that is an abstraction of your concern. Further, you may extend it to other related concepts, such as what caused it, by surveying research literature. And after reading and reviewing literature, you may come up with the commonly used terms that represent the phenomena or problem under your study. Moreover, you may have a clearer understanding about the definition of the variables so that they won't get mixed up with another concept. In this process of reviewing literature, you may also acquire insights of how the variable works in your context or in similar contexts and how they are connected to each other. This is where you start developing a theoretical model. In the next step, you build your own theory regarding others' theories for your specific context or case. And according to this process, you may notice that critical literature review is highly related with theoretical framework. The former provides a solid foundation for developing the latter. Now, let's see an illustration of how we build a theoretical framework. Let's say that we have a research question of what are the factors that determine student academic performance. The problem could be there is a declining trend of students' average GPA in the last 2 consecutive semesters or maybe years in a university under investigation. The first step in building theoretical framework is identifying relevant concepts or variables. The easiest way to do so is by specifying the researcher's concern. From this research question, we can see that the main concern is students' academic performance. Thus, we have GPA as a variable that represents the student's performance. The process is continued to identify other related variables and their connection to the main variable, the GPA. For instance, after reviewing several previous studies, we acknowledge that students' GPA is affected by their learning ability. At the same time, we may also see in reality that students with relatively high learning ability are more likely to achieve high GPA as well. By integrating theories and what we saw in the field, we formulate the first hypothesis. The student's learning ability has positive impact on his or her GPA. Be as it may, some students with not so good learning ability are still able to make their way to get good GPA, especially when they are in a circumstance that support them to study better. For example, the place where they study is quiet and can help them to focus. The materials are well provided, they do not have any difficulty in accessing them, or maybe the teachers are supportive. We might as well expect that if such situation occurs to the students with high learning ability, the results will be tremendous. Thus, we generate the second hypothesis. As student has more conducive learning environment, the positive impact of a student's learning ability on his or her GPA will be higher. Here, now we have our own theoretical framework regarding the research question. That is the simplified illustration on how we build a theoretical framework or conceptual model. In this case, we have 3 variables and 2 hypotheses. Remember that the variables and relationships among them are specified by critically reviewing previous studies or literature. Okay, this is the end of this section. Given all of the explanation, I hope you can grasp the fundamental idea of theoretical framework, and see you in the next video. Ciao!